Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Reviewing Comics with me, your host, Alexander Turbin. So today I was going to go through, because last review I did X-Men 251, which was a Wolverine, and it didn't really have a lot of Lady Deathstrike, but it had the Reavers, and it had some Lady Deathstrike and Donald Pierce, and there was whole thing going on there, and it brought me to a discussion with one of the viewers as to where Lady Deathstrike got her adamantium from, and it just spiraled into into a rabbit hole that I think I'm not going to be able to get out of. So I was going to do a review of issue 205, which is where Lady Deathstrike actually gets her. I don't know if she actually gets her adamantium here or she becomes some sort of cyborg, but then I was like thinking, well, it's Lady Deathstrike. Let's go back to her origin. So now we're going to go through this whole Lady Deathstrike series pretty much. I'm going to try to acquire each of the Lady Deathstrike books, and which is Daredevil and Alpha Flight and a bunch of X-Men. There's like 23, 24, something like that. Comics that she's in. So I'm going to try to get them and go over them with you in these wonderful, lovely videos. But before we get into that, I'd like to show you some of my own artwork. This is Random Access, and this is actually volume 1, and I have some going out to a fellow collector, and he ordered the first 4 from my website, alexanderturbin.com, and this is the first one from like 93, 92, 93, and then the second one from as well 92, 93, and these 3 or 4 are the ones that I just produced like a couple of years ago. I kind of revamped and went into Random Access, and basically that's what it is. And I just kind of wanted to show some of the stuff that is in Random Access. This is the like I said, this is volume 1. Volume 2 actually becomes a little bit more extravagant, as you can see here. This is Random Access number 12, and it's in full color and has nice shiny cover and stuff. But this is in newsprint, and I think I've decided to print all of the comics that I get orders for in newsprint. The originals that I produce for Random Access every month, I can't really do the newsprint, but let me know if you guys really love the newsprint or what. This is the actually the first story of, it's called Symborgs, and this is I did this a while ago, and like 10 or 15 years ago, more than that, 20 years ago. And I continue that in Random Access. Anyway, you can get volume 2 in at patreon.com/AlexTurbin, or you can go to my website, alexanderturbin.com, and or you can just message me on alexturbin044 at Instagram. So yeah, and you can also get Mutandis and Forlorn and stuff at my my website. So yeah, let's talk about Lady Deathstrike. This is actually her first appearance, which I never really had known before. I just realized that when I did a little Google search of the first appearance, or actually all of the appearances of Lady Deathstrike, because she's got kind of a convoluted history, and I kind of really just want to go through issue by issue. I could have gone and done a history of Lady Deathstrike, kind of like Comics Tropes does. He'll do an artist or a character or something, and really go in depth into them. But I'm more of a reviewer, so I'm thinking that I would go through Daredevil, the first Daredevil 197, and let's look at the first appearance of Lady Deathstrike, or Yuriko. I can't remember. Yoshida? Is that her last name? Anyway, I love Daredevil. I've got a lot of those. I've got not as many Daredevils as X-Men, because Daredevil obviously isn't as popular in the mainstream, because The X-Men had like, 4 or 5 titles floating around there at the same time at any given point. So it's a lot easier to have a lot of X titles, not to mention all the spin-offs, Wolverine and all of the Rogues and Storms, Colossus, all of their spin-offs. But I really love Daredevil. I really love Daredevil when he's written well. When he's written well and drawn well, Daredevil is like a top tier, grade A character and everything. And I really love him. But when he's not well written, I kind of will just really skip over it. Kind of the same thing with Thor. I just really X-Men, I continued with, didn't matter who was writing or drawing with it. Daredevil, Thor, some of the other ones, it took me, I had to know the creative team because eventually I became a follower of creative teams and or singular artists or whatever, and that's really was my mainstay in reading comics. This is very interesting because it's written by Denny O'Neil and assisted by Klause Janson and Larry Hama. Actually, no, Denny O'Neil did the story. Klause Janson and Larry Hama assisted William Johnson, and Mike Mignola was the inker for this issue. So it's really kind of a collage of some of the greats. I mean, Klause Janson and Mike Mignola are, huge names in the industry, or at least they were. They still are. They're still legendary. But it's like a mishmash, and it's really jarring. I'm gonna say it. I'm not a huge fan of William Johnson. Maybe later on he gets his groove on and is really into all of the stuff he does. I kind of think almost that he looks a little bit my style, and that's not boding very well for me. But I love Klause Janson. It's weird. Like I said, Klause Janson is the artist for pages 2 through 6, and Larry Hama, I think, is the he's the inker for 2 through 6, and the rest is done by this William Johnson and Mike Mignola. And so this is the first page. I wonder what the first Mike Mignola art was. Was it inking? Because this is definitely not looking Mike Mignola-ish. So that's very interesting. I'm going to have to go back and look and see where he started his penciling and where he started his his inking. Another interesting thing is that two of the best Lady Deathstrike stories are actually drawn by Mignola, and in Alpha Flight 33 and 34. I did have them. I don't know if I still do. If I do, it's a crappy copy. As you can see, this is not grade A minty freshness as for a copy of this book. But I am rambling on a little bit. Let's get into the story. So this starts off. It's a very funny, very odd beginning first page. It doesn't really tell you anything other than Daredevil's in it and Bullseye, but he's got Wolverine claws. Why does he have Wolverine claws? And it looks like that they're in his bones. So that's just weird. Did they just want to draw Wolverine with Bullseye with Wolverine claws? And I don't know, have an emblem of the characters. I don't know. That's very weird. But then it gets into the story actually, and then you can back up because Matt Murdock is actually sleeping, and this was part of his dream. In the previous issues, Daredevil fought Bullseye and the whole Elektra thing, and the Frank Miller. It's a fantastic, wonderful story, and I'm definitely going to get into those. And kind of really dive into them because they are really some of the best comics that have ever been created. But this is the Klause Janson work. It's quite jarring from the dream sequence. And really, it's so difficult to tell. Klause Janson is such a heavy inker, but he's not inked on these. He's not inking himself on these pages. He's doing the drawing. But when he inks Frank Miller in this and in Dark Knight and anything else that they do, he is so heavy-handed. I don't know if I like that. I don't know if I like an inker that is so heavy-handed and so stylistic that he kind of takes over the penciler's whole artistic vision. But this is definitely Klause Janson's artistic vision, and I think Larry Hama just went with the inks where I'm sorry, I keep saying Klause. It's really Klause Janson. So he's really, the inker really doesn't set the tone. Klause sets the tone, and then the inker really just followed exactly what he wants and what he does. Everything, all of these panels are very Mazzucchelli-ish, Frank Miller-ish. This is a panel straight out of something that Mazzucchelli or Frank Miller would do. But then there's other panels that are very Miller and Mazzucchelli, and something like that or that. Those are very un-Mazzucchelli, where something like this is a little bit more. It's just a way that the artist kind of you can tell their style and their way of looking at things. I mean, I certainly have certain panels and certain positions and certain body things that I do, and it's, you just use them over and over again, kind of subconsciously, like you see a 3/4 view of a character, and you just position them a certain way because that's how it's in your brain to do, I guess. Anyway, Foggy Nelson, the story is kind of, it's not shallow, but there really isn't a whole lot going on. Basically, Foggy wakes up Matt, and they're just kind of talking about Matt needing a vacation and stuff. And so Foggy leaves, and Matt tells Foggy that he's going to Japan and he on a vacation, which really he's going there to look for Bullseye and kind of figure out exactly what happened to Bullseye, because I think in the previous issues he was resurrected at some point, like in Elektra Lives, he's resurrected by the Hand, and in I think in these issues he's resurrected, or a doctor kind of helps him, but I don't know, it's still a little bit off on what happens exactly to Bullseye and the Hand and the doctors and all that stuff. And then from somewhere, it must have been previous issues. I haven't read the Daredevil issues in quite a long time, the non-Miller Daredevil issues anyway. And this guy, he's after Matt Murdock. He's angry at him because he gave him up to Daredevil, and I guess he must be a mobster or something. So he's going to throw some dynamite at Matt Murdock. But Matt is he's tired, and he's unaware of what's going on with the guy, and he's going to Japan, flying to Japan in 10 hours, so he has to get some sleep. So he's walking to his house or whatever, and the guy lights the dynamite, and he's going to throw it at Murdock or Daredevil. And I can't remember, is this 6? Let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is still Klause Janson and Larry Hama doing the artwork. Very much Mazzucchelli-ish, but then he's got a couple of his own poses that are not Mazzucchelli-ish or Frank Miller's. And here's a fantastic thing that would be both of those artists would do. It's just a certain way things are done. And I love the colors. The colors in Daredevil all throughout the run are very bleak and kind of toned down, which is really fantastic. It's not that there's not a lot of different colors. I mean, you've got some great reds, and you've got some teals and some greens and some purples. But it's just the way that they're pieced together, I guess. And it's just, it all pulls it together. So I think what Marvel was really trying to do was keep the whole feel of the Frank Miller issues together, and that's kind of why they added Klause Janson, as well as maybe helping the new guy out. but they did that in a lot of issues where they would have a new artist and they would tell them kind of do your best to emulate um, what was previously popular and stuff. And that's it is what it is. I guess you can have your own opinions on that. But so Daredevil knocks the piece of dynamite away, but he still gets blasted by it, and he's in the doctor's. He's in the hospital, and Foggy goes and helps him. But I guess he's okay to travel because he must have knocked the dynamite away far enough so they didn't get hurt. So he's going to Japan, and he's having this going down memory lane. And this is the new guy. The Klaus Janson and Larry Hama stuff is completely done, and this is the new guy, and it's quite jarring. It's this is very raw and visceral, and whereas the new guy is very kind of complex, not complex. It's more tighter. It's a lot tighter. It's more like an Alan Davis type of thing. That's kind of who I first thought of. But this is also Mignola doing the inking, so you can kind of see some of the tight inking that Mignola would really kind of be known for, is shadows and stuff. It's not really quite exactly there yet, but there's a few spots that are kind of Mignola-ish that he would really become known for later on. So it's Daredevil thinking about Bullseye killing Elektra and stuff, and they land in Japan, which is kind of interesting because he says put your seatbelts on. It looks like it's on fire. But it's not. They're just landing, and he lands in Japan. And of course, there's these thugs that attack Matt Murdock right out of the gate, right off of the airplane. He gets attacked by these thugs. Very Black Rainish, if you have ever seen that movie, which with Michael Douglas. It's a wonderful movie. But that's a very cool movie, and it's got some really cool motorcycle scenes and stuff. So Daredevil takes care of these thugs. Only he's just Matt Murdock, and he's whooping them. The fight scenes are kind of blah. They're a little bit too many panels, I think, and not enough real motion. I don't know. We're gonna have to go through why some artists are more pleasant in fight scenes and not fight scenes than others. I don't know. I mean, you've got Frank Miller, who's a fantastic fight sequence choreographer. I guess it's all about the choreography and the positions of the figures as they're kind of going through their motions. I think you need a good balance of far away shots as well as close-ups and stuff like that. And you kind of they're almost all the same size in this fight scene except for his close-up here. I kind of wish there had been one less panel and they'd kind of thrown it around a little bit. It would have made it look a little bit more dynamic for me. But so Matt Murdock then decides to turn into Daredevil. He's going to find the ship that Bullseye is actually on, and he sneaks on the ship and he goes looking for Bullseye, and he comes across this person who's a prisoner. And as soon as you see her, you realize that it's Lady Deathstrike or Yuriko. But at the time, you didn't know who this character was. You didn't know anything about her. But she's a prisoner, and she says she knows all about Bullseye and what's going on with him and where he is and everything. If he releases her, then she will let him go, or she will tell him where Bullseye is and everything like that. So there's guards. She says, "Look out!" Actually, this whole thing looks a lot like Ron Lim, is what I'm thinking. Let me know if you guys think that this artist is akin to anything else, especially the Mignola stuff. So Daredevil fights a guard. He pulls Yuriko away, and he's trying to get her off the ship, or for her to lead him to wherever he's going, wherever Bullseye is. So he just kind of knocks out as many of these shipmates and guards and stuff. This fight scene's a little bit better. I like the 3 panels in a row and then 2 and then a finale panel. But I'd rather have the finale panel be a little bit bigger and have these a little bit shorter. You have all of this space up here that really isn't needed. But and again, it's all the same size. I really wish that they were different sizes, like this page. You got this bigger panel, and you got him. It's a his chest or whatever, and it really focuses in on some of the stuff. And then you've got these other smaller panels. Maybe that's just an image thing, or just something that they created because they wanted the money shot. But I also think that translates well for any kind of fight scene that's going on, because you really need a wide variety of things. It's not talking heads where you have a head in each panel, but a fight scene is supposed to be super dynamic and super interesting and super enticing, and to not have that differentials in panels, I think is a definite miss on the opportunity. So anyway, he fights the bad guys, and he leaves. He's going through like this sort of weird mental thing where he's thinking about Bullseye. It's almost like he's got Bullseye on the brain, and she's like, "What the heck's going on?" And he thinks that it's just maybe some a concussion from the explosion or whatever. I really love this picture. I've always loved this picture of him taking his claws and falling down the tapestry or whatever. I wonder who actually drew that. But then we get back to they're on the deck of the ship, and she's the spotlight. He's like, "Where's Bullseye?" And she's like, "A light." And Daredevil throws a wrench up at the light, and then he fights some more bad guys. Very Frank Miller ish. We're doing it all in silhouettes, and it's very cool, and it's also easier on the artist. Again, I really feel like it should have been more different sizes in the fight scene. But then Yuriko takes off, and she jumps into the water, and Daredevil follows her. They end up at a cafe or whatever, and they're just kind of rehashing what's going on, and she's telling him at the same time that this is happening. This is Bullseye, and this is I think ends up being her father, and he regenerates him or brings him back from the dead. I think he's part of the Hand, and this is part of his house, actually, some sort of regenerative deity or something like that. We're going to get back to this. The Arrow, the dreaded Arrow. This is a new artist, so there's going to be places where he doesn't do everything as well as he could, and that is definitely my biggest pet peeve, is the Arrow, for anybody who's been watching for quite a while. So Bullseye and the doctor just talk, and the doctor is telling him he's going to go through several processes, some newer, some older, and some magical, some surgical. And Bullseye's like, you're gonna have ask me to do something, aren't you? You're gonna have some sort of a payment for this. And the old guy's like, yes, you're gonna do something for me. Yuriko actually talks about, I think, her father and his origin. He was a kamikaze pilot, and he failed his mission as a kamikaze pilot, and he lived, and he escaped, or he was captured or something. And so he's always lived in shame, and he's always trying to reclaim his honor. So then it goes back to the cafe, and Yuriko and Daredevil are just kind of there, and the sailors and whatever are trying to attack them again because, I don't know, they're bad guys, I guess. So they're attacking him, and an old lady, the cafe owner or whatever, the cook, hits the bad guy. And so what happens is they're talking about her being in shadow, her always keeping one side of her face hidden from him, and he's like, "What's that?" And she chides him because he has a mask on, and so he's not forthright with her. So why should she be forthright with him? But she does show it, and I'm not sure. That's not the same. Like Lady Deathstrike doesn't have that in all of the issues, does she? Let's take a look at Lady Deathstrike. Take a kind of a quick sneak peek. There's nothing else in the issue, but I kind of want to go back and say a few things. So this is Lady Deathstrike. She doesn't have the tattoo on her. Is the tattoo removed? I don't know. I'm going to have to go through because I want to look up the second appearance of Lady Deathstrike, and we're going to go through the second appearance and the third appearance and all of the appearances of Lady Deathstrike. So buckle in. That's kind of one of the things that I'm going to be going through. It'll be one of the reviews a week that I do is the origin and the life of Lady Deathstrike, and then the other one I'll probably do some of those 90s, 80s, and 90s black and whites that I usually go into. But yeah, that's the finale. She shows the tattoo to Daredevil, and she's like, "Am I hideous?" And he says, "Not to my eyes," which, of course, bada bing, he's blind. So that is the first appearance of Lady Deathstrike, or Yuriko. Not sure what happens to the tattoo because I don't think the tattoo stays on her. But I will have to look it up, and maybe it's actually the next issue. Maybe something happens there because I really don't remember back from 1983. I'm sorry, back in 1983. This when this issue came out, so I don't really remember. So Daredevil 197, the first appearance of Lady Deathstrike, and so we're going to be going through that. If you guys like this issue, let me know. If you have the other issues or you know more about Lady Deathstrike than I possibly could, let me know in the comment section because I love to keep this conversation going about Lady Deathstrike, and because she is really a cool character that's really kind of underutilized because she's really just kind of a hunter and she's out for vengeance. There's really hasn't been a lot of characterization for her, and I really kind of would like a little bit more characterization for her because she really is a cool character that has gone through a lot of growth and has been in a lot of the different mediums and stuff. So let me know what you guys think of this issue. I'm not going to review it. All right, I'm going to review it. I'm going to give this a 7. I'm going to give it a 7. I really like the Klause Janson art. The Mike Mignola stuff doesn't really change this stuff. The arrow knocks it down. I really hate the arrow. There's other ways to do this whole composition of panels than to put a stinky old arrow there. But I don't really love a lot of this composition and a lot of the figures and stuff. But I do love the Klause Janson stuff, and the writing is pretty good, and it's Daredevil, and the cover is really cool. So there's a lot to like, and it's a 7. But let me know what you guys think of this. If you think I'm a little bit too harsh on them, especially because of the arrow or not, and what you think of Lady Deathstrike, and what you think of this journey that's going on. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell and all of that stuff. I'm trying to get to 500 subscribers, and I would really, really appreciate some help in that department. But thanks again for watching, and let me know what you guys thought of this issue. And we definitely will get to X-Men 205. It's one of my favorite issues of a comic ever, so we're definitely going to get to that. And again, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you guys next week.